Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Satisfactory. I'm Max Involved, and today we're going to pick up right where we left off in the last one and kind of just continue this train, right? We got the main base done. Well, I'm sorry. We didn't get the main base done. We got the starter factory done. We are producing most of the parts that we're going to need going forward to kind of really kick everything into high gear. But before I get started, do me a favor. Scroll down just a little bit. Hit that subscribe button. You know, we are I can almost taste 1,000. We are so close, and you guys can help me get there, and I appreciate every single one of you. So with that out of the way, let's hop right into this. Yeah, so we finished this off, and I've been kind of doing a little bit in between episodes, working on the decor a little bit, right? It's still kind of a work in progress. I'm doing a little bit of this, a little bit of that. I'll kind of show you some more as the episode goes on, because I've been working on this on stream a little bit in between. So there is some progression. But speaking of progression, for us to progress more, we're going to need to kick things off into high gear. And we're going to need some power. That's right. So I think the next thing we need to do, I've already got it queued up, right? Let's, do I have all this stuff? Maybe. Let's get this thing. We need petroleum power. Fuel power. So let's go ahead and launch this.
Milestone reached. It is my honor and privilege to inform you that the fuel-powered generator, as well as the industrial fluid buffer, are now available. Due to a lack of gold in your sector, Caterium will serve as a suitable replacement to construct the fuel-powered generator. Your research into this element was valuable. In fact, you in particular are my most valuable pioneer, but don't tell the others I said that. It would be bad for morale.
Oh, thank you, Ada. And this is kind of a big moment, honestly. As I may have mentioned before, I've never got to this point in the game before, right? I haven't played a lot since update 4, so this is a big deal. And we got fuel. This is kind of really going to take things to the next level, I think, right? Because you can really expand out your power generation with fuel. And I think those of you who are familiar with this game will probably know where we're going to go with this, but we're going to go right in here. This place is absolutely ripe for fuel power plants, and a little bit later I'll show you why. But there are some other things that we have to kind of flesh out into the game, right? One of those is the main base, right? And you might notice there's this little space elevator. You might have noticed it out there, right? We kind of have a space elevator put down, and I want to talk about that in a second. But there's a few things that we're going to need to get to really kick off fuel power, and that's some alternate recipes. Do I have any hard drives? Hello, hard drives? I don't. So we'll have to go find some of those, get some recipes going, get some alt recipes. But let's start talking about main base stuff and kind of what the plan is with that. What do you think, Mr. Bean? Is it time to get the main base going? Yeah? Oh, okay. So here's the space elevator. This is the location that I picked, and this will kind of be the area that our main base is going to subside. Now, I did something a little interesting. I want this space elevator here to be kind of like a central focus piece for the whole area. So I put it on a giant hexagon, since that's kind of seems to be one of the themes in here. And I'll be honest, it doesn't quite line up. You see right here, like the corners don't really meet. There's a lot of like finagling around I have to do to kind of make that work. And so to extend it out was kind of weird. So I just instead also made just a giant circle. Yeah, I thought that looked really kind of cool, and it really meets the hexagon well. And yeah, this didn't take a trivial amount of time to do. It's kind of a tedious thing to build, but I think it looks really good. And everything's situated so that this is oriented towards the starter factory. So, wow, that actually looks really cool from here. So there's a lot that's going on here, right? I want this area, over in this side, off in this direction, right? The Blue Crater Lake, where we're going to have the fuel plant, is off in that direction. You can kind of see we have some power lines going out that way because we have like our little mini plastic and rubber factory going there. But over maybe in this area, I'm going to have a space elevator part factory, right? And the way I'm kind of thinking about all of this is we're going to kind of have this canyon kind of lined with base components, right? So over there, we'll have effectively the quote unquote main base. Over here, I think we're going to have, you know, some kind of logistics setup. We got a cave going through there. I don't even know. I think that cave just comes out over here, right? But in my mind, that's a perfect setup for trains, right? I want a train that goes between here and the starter factory. We want to get trucks going. So lots of that stuff, right? So I'm thinking a logistics level somewhere over here. Like I mentioned, space elevator parts over there. And then over there, we'll kind of do everything else we need. We'll make a big storage room, right? I want to make a huge sorting system. Something where I can run up with a full inventory, drop the whole inventory, and have it all sort itself with smart splitters and sinks and all that. You know, if we need it, it gets stored. If we don't need it, it goes to a sink. Everything, right? Animal parts will automatically get turned into DNA, all that stuff, right? So that's what's gonna be all over there. You know, so the hub's gonna get moved over there and everything, right? So that's kind of the plan there. And I wanted to kind of frame it out a little bit so we can really visualize what's going to happen, how that's going to work, how it's going to look maybe. And that's just going to take a little bit of booping, and you should see it right about now. So hopefully that didn't startle you too much, but you can kind of see where I was going with this, right? A little bit. So I'm trying to be mindful of the future, right? We'll definitely go vertical with this, but let's kind of get over here so you can kind of at least see what I mean, right? I wanted to leave some space down in between the ground and where this floor goes. So this probably won't, because this is such a steep hill. This won't go back that far, but we can go up, right? And this is kind of what I was talking about. I want this whole base area to almost feel like an amphitheater, kind of, with the space elevator as the centerpiece. So it kind of, you know, it wraps around. You know, we're using angles here. And this is kind of what I meant, right? So over there is the start of the main base. Over here, you know, again, we have verticality as an ally here. We can go up and down with logistics floors and train stations. Maybe even have a train come into the bottom part of the space elevator. Maybe even have train stations in that void down there with, you know, glass foundations or something. I think that could look super, super cool. We've got tons of resources here. Limestone, copper. I know there's some iron over there. Stuff that we can import in and start making things. I don't know how big of a production chain we're going to get in this area. You know, we have lots of stuff that we still need to make, like computers and high-speed connectors and circuit boards and, you know, stuff that requires plastic, deuterium, all that good stuff. And we need to get that stuff automated. So I'm thinking we'll do some of that over here. So this will be somewhat of a production center, somewhat just like a home base, right? And so, yeah, so I'm going to work on this perimeter a little bit more, kind of get it fleshed out. And then I want to unlock something cool as well. And here you're going to get kind of a better idea of the scale, kind of how it's going to interact with the terrain here. I'm trying to kind of follow the terrain, right? I moved some stuff around a little bit. I'm kind of messing with angles and stuff, right? But, you know, this is just an idea of the verticality that we can have. And I'm debating between, you know, sheer walls that, you know, we can kind of decorate and give some depth to, or even like a terraced kind of step back and up design here. I'm not quite sure, but I think what I want to do is make the floors like these are what? What is this? Okay, not you. I think that's about 8 high. Yeah, seven or 8 high, right? And I think that's a good height because you can slap refineries in here. You can slap kind of whatever you need in between these floor heights, and you won't have clipping issues, and it's plenty of space to move around, right? And so I'm also slapping some manufacturers down on an even higher level over here. Again, I'm not sure if I want to put stuff here or there. You see, we need to complete phase 3. So I've just been putting some stuff down to see all the things we're going to need, right? Automated wiring. That's a space elevator part on its own. But yeah, circuit boards, heavy modular frames, computers. Like we need to start making all of that stuff for the modular engines, like rubber, smart plating motors, right? We're already making some of this stuff, but again, we need to bring it all in here. And of course, versatile frameworks or flexible. This is an alternate recipe, but still just a bunch of stuff. Like we even need to increase the amount of steel we're making and all that, right? So again, I'm just kind of laying out all this foundation to give myself options. And over time, like if you're interested in watching this stuff get built, check out the streams. I try to go Monday and Friday about anywhere from 4:30 to, I don't know, 6:30, 7-ish Pacific time. So, hang out. Twitch, YouTube, we're here for both. But unfortunately, I forgot to record this. But I did unlock the trains. Now, this is something, again, I've never used. I've never used trains in my life. And I am super excited to actually get into this. But unfortunately, these don't really do anything for us now. And that has mostly to do with our power infrastructure, right? We're still running on that same coal factory, albeit overclocked. It's the same coal factory or the same coal power plant that we've been having. So only 3,600 power. So we need to look at, we need to start looking into fuel and start planning that. So I have also got some hard drives. So let's go over there and look at some of the recipes we have, because I think they'll come in very handy for what we want to plan. And if we check out the MAM here, there's one recipe I was looking for in particular, but that led into another one. And so if we start here, I'm looking for anything turbo fuel related, right? So we went through, and if we look here, I went through the sulfur tree, unlocked compacted coal, unlocked turbo fuel. You'll need the compacted coal for the turbo fuel. So it's great that we have this, right? But what I don't know is what is the best, I guess, most efficient way to make turbo fuel. So I figure we're going to try making this. Let's unlock this one. But not only, and there's one that I know is good. Diluted packaged fuel, right? This essentially lets you double the amount of fuel you produce at the cost of water, right? So I knew right away from watching enough content that this is a S+++ tier alternate recipe. So 100% I wanted to get this. Now, I don't want to delete that. So now we need to go over here. We need to go here. We need to scout our resources, and we need to start planning what we're actually going to build over here, right? So let's jaunt on over to this area, and we'll kind of start making a game plan for what the future is going to hold. And our first stop is right here. Now, just to give you a clue of where we are on the map, we need 3 main recipes, or 3 main ingredients for this turbo fuel factory: sulfur, coal, oil. Well, we got sulfur right here. And I've started kind of putting some stuff down. This is a geothermal generator, by the way. I unlocked this at some, in some interim time. The way these work is very interesting. For those of you who've never seen these before, right? They work with a fluctuating power, right? So they have a minimum and a maximum. Well, I think it's pretty regular how up and down they go. So really, you'll end up somewhere in the middle, which in this case would be about 400 megawatts per minute or whatever, right? So you can see it kind of going back up there. That on its own isn't great, I think, if you're using this directly, right? Unless your total consumption is under 200 in this case, which this is a pure, I believe this is a pure geyser. That's not super good. So what I'm thinking, and those of you who are more knowledgeable about this, let me know down in the comments. But I feel like if I were to put, let's say, a battery bank. Do I have batteries? No, I didn't make a thing for that, right? But if I put a bunch of batteries down, a bunch of power storage, right? let's say, yeah, let's do 4, right? And we go up and we daisy chain these all together, right? And I do this to that. These should start filling up, right? And they'll fill up at whatever the, I guess, whatever this charge rate is, right? So you can see, like, it's a fluctuating cycle here. So what I guess, charge rate 100 megawatts. So I think that's the most it'll go, right? So an hour until full. Okay. So my thought process is I can use something like these to store the fluctuations in the charge, right? In the power production from this. Then what I can do is, you know, put a power line down. And you can see, right? So it peaks and it goes down, but it's a very linear process, which means you're going to average 400 megawatts per minute, right? So what I was thinking is, you know, I put those down, I let them charge. Then I can use the batteries to kind of even out the power distribution. So when the charge is below 400, the drain comes from the batteries to the machines. And then when the charge is above 400, it charges, that overhead charges what we're doing here, right? I think that's a way that you can get more consistent power output. But again, I don't actually know that for a fact. That just, to me, seems like it would make sense. So if you know more about this game and know more about how this power stuff works, let me know down below in the comments, because with such fluctuating power, I don't know how else this would be useful. And it seems like the batteries are the perfect things to kind of modulate that up and downness. I mean, it's still, I still see that, like, the capacity, like, batteries don't get, batteries don't seem to get factored into capacity, but maybe they will when they're charged, you know, because right now it's at 3% or whatever, right? So that's the idea. Like, I would love to see like 400 megawatts as the low end of the capacity kind of at all times, but I don't know if that's how it works for certain, right? So let me know what you guys think. But anyway, this area has a normal, a impure, and a pure sulfur node. And you might be able to see I've got these overclocked. I was kind of messing around with them and kind of trying to see how much output we need. So this is one piece of the puzzle. If we look and we scan for the coal, we should see some nodes right over here. Right over here. There we go. So 4 normal nodes over there. So that's all, you know, if we're looking at this, the most I can get out of that is 300 fully overclocked, right? And then lastly, we need oil. And as we all know, there's a ton of oil over here. There's a bunch like up in here. We have ones down here, I think, that we're using to make our plastic, right? There's some here, but there's some pure right up in here, right? So plenty of stuff. And I've gone ahead and taken the liberty of making a mock-up of our power, like our proposed power plant. And I'm going to warn you now, there's going to be some math involved in this. It shouldn't be too crazy. And I have kind of real world examples built to kind of show you each step. But you're going to have to use your imagination a little bit about how this is going to look. But I think it'll be good. And it's right over there. So let's just boop on over there. And then this is the kind of the cradle to the grave of how we're going to make our power system. And you'll notice we got, you know, every step in the process. And I'll kind of explain those steps in a minute. But over here, right, you guys are familiar with this. I upgraded these to the industrial fluid buffers because, you know, these are just outputting a ton of heavy oil residue. Are these still outputting heavy oil residue even without the plastic? Huh. Like, I know that these are flowing downhill. Interesting. That's good to know. Okay. So right here, you know, we have like an impure and a normal, and there's some more right over there, some normals. But up here, I was going to use one of these guys, or actually both of these pure oil nodes right here. 1 and 2. We're going to use these guys to fuel the whole factory, right? Or fuel the whole power plant. And I'm going to be honest with you right now, we're not making the power plant today. That is such a big task that I haven't even wrapped my head around exactly how it's all going to get laid out. It was bad enough just trying to figure this out. So let's go over what we're going to do here. And it all starts right here. Now, I have some notes that I made here, right? And so let me kind of explain what we're going to do. So we're going to take the oil. No, that's not what we're doing. We're going to take the oil and we're going to make heavy oil residue, right? Crude oil, heavy oil residue. We're going to have polymer resin as a byproduct of that, right? Which is what that other recipe was. And you can see over here, this is going to take with our 480, 16 refineries from oil to heavy oil residue. That's going to give us a bunch of polymer resin. We're going to use that to make residual rubber and residual plastic with just some water, right? So that is going to be kind of like a supplemental rubber and plastic factory with just the byproducts of this right here. So from here, once we make the heavy oil residue, right? And again, we're going to come over here. You see we have the purple pipe representing that into this refinery right here. This is where we're going to make packaged fuel. This takes packaged water, heavy oil residue. We needed 16 refineries from oil to heavy oil residue. We're going to need 22 refineries, well, really 21.3333, and 22 packagers. And the packagers are simply going to be taking in water and shooting out packaged water, right? Empty canisters. The canisters are something that we are going to have to take into account. We're going to have to deal with that, right? But I'll explain more what we're going to do in a minute, right? So this is giving us packaged fuel. Packaged fuel is going to come and go to another packager, but this time we're unpackaging it into its base components. Empty canisters, fuel. Those empty canisters ideally make their way back to this system. So that's the idea. The idea is that we have a closed loop. Now, there's two things to consider when we're talking about this. There's two ways we can do this, actually. We can, number one, create canisters. And I believe that is a constructor item. Canisters. Okay, so we can use plastic to make canisters. So on one hand, we can just send in empty canisters, and on the other hand, when they come out, sink them. That is probably the quote-unquote safest way to do it, in the sense that if canisters back up, so in this machine right here, if this cannot output these canisters, then it does not output fuel. And if it does not output fuel, then everything down the rest of the line chokes and dies. So in this scenario where we're doing a closed loop, like I mentioned, the first step is to insert the canisters somehow into the system, right? Maybe that's us having some bins that we kind of drop canisters into, something, right? But then the other thing is to ensure that the output from all of these unpackagers, 22 of them, is going to... We're going to need to somehow balance all of these belts into something that flows in nicely, right? Because what we don't want is any one belt getting backed up will cascade kind of down the line and shut the whole thing down. So I think what I'm going to do is, depending on how many... Is this 60 output? Right? So 480 divided by 60... So if we need 22 packagers, we can do about 3 480 lines. I'm going to look at making maybe a 3-to-3 balancer. So 3 input, 3 output load balancer, which I think should ensure that no one line backs up, right? Alternatively, we can create, or maybe in conjunction actually, we can make like an overflow of some sort as well. Something that will maybe take the, yeah, so maybe we do like something like this, where I'm not actually going to put it on here, right? But an overflow loop where maybe that goes into a buffer container and then merges back into the line. Maybe we'll do something like that because, again, we don't want, this is overflows to the left, center, straight is the default, right? We'll see. I've never made this before. So, again, those of you that are experienced with this, let me know down below if my idea is crazy. I've seen other people do this and I've seen people have problems with it. So I'm cautious, We may just end up defaulting to creating canisters, sinking canisters. That seems to be the safest. But anyway, so now that we've created fuel, we're going to come over here, and this is where the magic happens, this refinery right here. This is taking our fuel and our compacted coal, the reason we needed coal and sulfur, and it's making turbo fuel. That's what it's outputting. Now, this is also where things scale up dramatically, right? If you look over here, we're going to end up making, I think this is 1,280 fuel when all this is said and done. So you can see we're going from 480 oil to like 640 heavy oil residue to like 1,280 packaged fuel, or 1,280 fuel. And if we go in here, this only takes 22.5. Well, if we look 1,280 divided by 22.5, that's 56.9, let's say, refineries. So 57 refineries. So we're going to need to make 57 refineries dedicated to making turbo fuel. With that, though, we're going to need 57 times 15, 855 compacted coal. So let's look over here. That's what this is representing. This is representing the compacted coal. You see, unfortunately, it's not a clean number. It's 1-to-1, right? So if we do 855 divided by 25, we're going to need 34.2 assemblers worth of compacted coal for this. So a lot of moving parts, right? But then when all is said and done, we're going to be having 18.75 times 56.888888889, right? So 106, 1066 and 2/3, right? Well, if we look at our fuel thing here, each generator only burns 7.5 per minute. So if we do 1066.666667 divided by 7.5, it's 142. So really 143 fuel generators. Well, 143 times 250 is roughly 35.7 thousand megawatts, or 35.7 gigawatts of power. And that's not all. That's not all we can do. We can also enhance that with an alien power augmenter. Can I just put this in the water? Oh, that's so cool. I've literally actually never built one of these, honestly. I've unlocked it, but I never did it. This thing is so cool. Like, I love all the alien power stuff. Look at that. Super cool. So anyway, so this gives us a flat, well, you know what? Watch, we can do this. So now that that's on the grid, you'll notice we just went up from 3,600 production to 4,510, right? Why did we get 4,510? Well, this is giving us 500 static power, which brings us from 35 or 36 to 41, and then an extra 410. So we're getting 910 free megawatts of power by doing this. Now imagine what's going to happen when we do that at 36, what was it? 35,750. So 35,750 plus 500 right? So 36,250 times 1.1. Almost 40,000 megawatts we're going to make from a couple pure oil nodes. That's not even touching those oil nodes right there. There's 2 right there, and the 2 we're on right now. So my thought process is these might be dedicated to oil and plastic. Now, I already did a little bit of work for this because I was concerned. I was concerned about the amount of compacted coal we're going to have, right? So I made a compacted coal factory, a small one, a tiny one, right? I didn't use any of this coal, any of the coal over here. I didn't use any of the sulfur over here. No coal here, no sulfur there. What I did do is I went way over here and I made a little factory over here. So let's go over there and show you so you can see kind of what I'm talking about. You know, and as we're traveling out here, you might be thinking to yourself, why did you, and what is that? This is just like some stuff I didn't zoop out. You might be wondering yourself, why did you make this way over here when you have all of that sulfur? Get rid of that. All that sulfur and all that coal right there in the lake. And I'll be honest with you, right? I'm going to be honest with you guys. If we look at turbo fuel, let's look at the recipes real quick. You notice we have really 2 recipes, right? Turbo heavy fuel, turbo fuel. This is the one we're using, which you'll notice has a 15 per minute requirement of compacted coal. When I was setting up that mock, that planning diorama, we can call it, I was looking at this recipe. It didn't click to me that I was looking at this. And I saw 30 compacted coal per minute. And I was thinking to myself, 57 refineries at 30 per minute? What is that? Well, 57 times 30, that's 1,710 compacted coal. And I thought to myself, how the heck am I going to get that much? Because we only have a pure node plus a normal node. Well, I think this is actually at 300 plus an impure node, fully maxed out over there. That's only 930. Over here, we have a pure node of sulfur and a pure node of coal. Well, that's only another 480. I was kind of freaking out. I was like, how are we going to get 1,700 compacted coal from these nodes around? That's crazy. That's way more than we would ever be able to use. And so I was like, well, let me come over here and at least make this whole thing, only to find out after I did all of this that I was looking at the wrong recipe. But I thought, well, let's not let this go to waste, right? So we have, I think that's the coal down there. So a pure coal node, pure sulfur node. And those are basically just feeding in. I think they're overclocked to 480. 480 because that's the fastest belt we have, right? So you're coming down here, both coming up, and they're both just kind of splitting right here. One half is going down here. The other half splits off into these lifts over here, and they go up. And then it's kind of just repeated over there. And I made this nice little pathway here so we can get up and down. We have like a kind of an observation level, and then we have a ground level, right? But, you know, put some windows up. I thought it looked kind of nice. You can kind of see where we are. Kind of an open air type deal here. I still gotta finish the decor and everything, but, you know, we got the power lines hanging from the ceiling, and, you know, we got the inputs there, and then these all just kind of coalesce. They all merge and go down there, right? And then so over here, that's the belt that we have coming out over here. So it just all comes out, and this is a 480 line of compacted coal. So if we do our math again, 57 times, oh my God, what is that? I won't have it. I won't have it. Oh my God. Oh my God. Oh my God. No. Oh God, I hate those things. Why are they here? Ugh, that's so gross. I'll need to build stuff to keep out here. Okay, where were we? 57 times 15 is only 855. So 855 minus 480. Now we only need to get 375 from the coal and the sulfur that we have, right? So my idea was, I could have just abandoned this, tear it all down, and just forget I did it. But I already put the work in, so I'm going to use this. And it's not like sulfur and coal are resources we don't need in large quantities. We're going to need to expand our steel production, especially with getting trains online. And I know we're going to need sulfuric acid and sulfur for other things like weapons production, because now we can unlock turbo rifle ammo and we can get the homing ammo and all that stuff, right? So it's not going to be useless. And you can kind of see this is where I brought it to. It's going to be quite a journey down to get to the factory that we're going to end up building in there, right? So not completely useless, but kind of a goof on my end. And you can see this doesn't take a tiny amount of power either. 330 just to get the compacted coal, right? And that's with one of the machines underclocked, right? So you can see why we need to get our power online before we can really even start getting that online, if I'm going to be honest, right? So anyway, guys, so that's where I'm going to call this episode. A lot happening in the future, right? And really, I can't start working on the main base too much until we have this whole thing kind of all figured out. And one thing this changing light has reminded me, I did get the Sky UI mod installed so that I can keep it nice and bright when we're filming and recording and taking screenshots and stuff. And so it looks beautiful for you guys, So yeah, I think we'll kind of here. I'll kind of leave you with some shots of the space elevator here. Yeah. So next couple episodes are going to be pretty much dedicated to the power plant because we need to get that up and running, and a fair amount of that work will be done on stream. So if you're excited, or if you are interested, or you want to give me tips and tricks and pointers, join the streams. Subscribe so you can see when I go live. All that stuff. So, yep. Again, you guys, thank you so much. I hope you're enjoying this series, because I'm enjoying it. This is the farthest I've ever got. I know I keep saying it, but it just still kind of blows my mind. And dang, the starter factories is looking nice out there. I'm really happy with where we're at now, and we're only going to get better, So anyways, guys, thank you all so much, and we'll see you in the next one.